All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of CFSI CyberFence, brought to you all by the Computer Forensics and Security Institute, which would be us. Sorry if you're hearing a lot of noise in the background with either thunder or dogs or Dale just spontaneously crying over the webinar because he's so excited. We have a pretty good show for you all here today. We have two rock stars here with us from Google. We have Mr. Dale Chulhan and we have Mr. Akaash Rampersad. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you very much for your time, especially Dale. I know you said it's like 9 o'clock there across by you. Dale is actually in Norway, place I always wanted to visit. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, guys. Before we get started, let me just run through the usual stuff that most of you all might know. Some of these slides here, right? So yeah, this is our fourth webinar in the installation. You all know that we do webinars, we do workshops, free to the entire public. You get free certificates of attendance and participation, just a way of giving back. It's sponsored by us. We could have sponsors, but then we would probably have to watch what we say and how we say things. And it's such a joy to insult each other on a public forum that we just decide to run it ourselves. All right, so yeah, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. This will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube on our CFSI CyberFence. You can just search CFSI CyberFence on YouTube and you can find all of the workshops and webinars there. I should have it up by Friday. Follow us on LinkedIn if you want to join more of these webinars and so on. We always post the links and registration links and what it's about on the LinkedIn page and to Instagram and Facebook and all these mobile platforms. Right, feel free to reach out to us either by email. That's my phone number up there. You can also get me on WhatsApp at 684-0029. If you have any questions, if you want to chat, if you need advice, it's fine. I'm not certified to give advice, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. So yeah, a little bit about us. We do a lot of advanced cybersecurity training, vulnerability assessments, pen testing, incident response forensics, red, blue, purple teaming, managed cybersecurity services as well. And recently we started off a lot of InfoSec and cybersecurity awareness training. We actually do this for free for a lot of companies. If your companies want us to talk a bit about threats and best practices and advise on things like ransomware and phishing attacks, this is all free. As long as we're available, we will have a session. And for those as well, we do give you certificates of completion and participation. The views expressed on this webinar is just ours or the individuals here. In no way, part or form is anything endorsed by Google and such. We're just here to discuss amongst ourselves as individuals, but it is pretty awesome to have two guys here from Google. That's we having tremendous cyber crushes at the moment. So just forgive the excitement. We kind of know what we're talking about just a little bit, right? I wrote a couple books. Alex actually did one there with the pen testing book. Alex and I wrote that with another member of CFSI, Mr. Damian Boudou. So it's kind of nice to have some trainees out there. Alex was also the technical reviewer for those two I did on forensics, and we should hopefully be doing some later this year if time permits. I'd like to do one on purple teaming. Alex will want to do one on how to conquer the world via pen testing. All right, so yeah, we're also an authorized training center for the EC Council. We offer all of these courses. We actually have a new one coming up called the Certified Cloud Security Engineer, because these days cloud is everything. And these guys also represent, I guess, Google Cloud in some form or fashion. All right, so we're the only one in the Caribbean that's certified to offer these courses and to teach these courses, and we're an exam center, etc. So if you have any interest in these, feel free to reach out to us. Even if you want to do other courses and stuff, it's fine. I could always advise you on places to go with what resources to try and use. If you want to do it self-study even, it's fine. All right, so these are just some of the clients that we've had over the past year. A lot of them, I can't put their names up due to non-disclosure agreements, but we have some pretty big clients, all of Unipet Maritime, Fujitsu Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago Insurance Institutes, BWDS, CGA, and my very good friends at Pure ICT in Curacao. Very lovely place too if you all want to visit that. But Pure ICT, big shout out to Donnie and Mark Dealers of Pure ICT. I love going across there to do work for them and stuff. It's very, very lovely place. Incredibly nice people. I think we actually do have a couple of people from Curacao on the webinar as well. So welcome to you guys. Brief introduction to us. I don't consider these guys my employees. These guys are actually some of my closest friends, and I consider them my brothers and family. We've been through a lot together. I'll just leave it there. All right, so I'm Shiva. I'm the director. I'm a pen tester, forensics investigator, lecturer, author, etc. I'm really just a regular guy that likes video games and playing with my dog. Then we have Mr. Alex Sam, Mr. Pen Tester himself, who's a senior pen tester at Ernst & Young, and he's a lecturer here. He is a coffee addict, and I don't think there's any hope for him to stray from coffee anyway. We have Dale, that very not so handsome looking gentleman waving there. He's a network engineer at Fujitsu. He's also a pen tester at CFSI. He's a lecturer. I'm actually very proud of Dale because Dale probably joined CFSI, I think, in maybe 2018. And from then to now, he lectures all of the courses here. He's a pen tester, forensic analyst, and we're always screaming at each other on Call of Duty Online. So we have Johnny, who also works at Ernst & Young. Johnny does look like a serial killer, but he's a pretty friendly guy. He's a senior pen tester at EY. He's a lecturer as well at CFSI. All these guys here are lecturers at CFSI. We do a lot of work together. Then we have our cybersecurity and networking Hulk, as I like to call him, Mr. Joel Gooding. He's a security architect. He's a lecturer. He's a vulnerability assessor, researcher, and he's an awesome dad as well. And pretty good guy. All right, and we have the lovely Savi Parashram. That's my wife. She is the administrative manager and official cake provider to all of us here. She does lovely cakes and she keeps us fat. So thanks very much for that, Savi. All right, so if you all want to ask any questions as well, we are on the Discord channel. You can actually just copy this link here and go to Discord, and you can join the chat as well. Right, if you have questions, you are free to use the chat box and we should be able to see the questions. I think all of us should be able to see it, and please feel free to also chat in Discord as well. Right, so yeah, we have these good looking gentlemen here. We have Mr. Dale Chulhan, we have Mr. Akaash Rampersad. They are both of Google. Dale has a really long title, customer engineer, corporate telecom, media, gaming, entertainment, UK and I'm not sure what the I stands for, but I guess you'll explain that. Oh, all right. I should. Yeah.
I negotiated the title as part of my move to my new job.
That's pretty awesome, though. And on the other end, we have Mr. Akaash Rampersad, is a customer engineer. I think, Akaash, you probably have to use some of your wits to convince them to get something as long as Dale. But yeah, these guys have graciously given up their time to sort of help inspire us and motivate us. I am very interested in finding out a little bit more about these guys and their backgrounds and so on. Whether they're wearing pants right now is totally up to them. But I mean, when you think about it, you know, everyone uses a lot of different search engines, but to actually know that we have 2 trainees and stuff, I mean, according to Dale, we have like 65 trainees out there, but it's mind blowing. These guys are honestly like the rock stars of tech for us down here in Trinidad. All right, so let me stop sharing my screen for just 1 second and we will get to it. Okay, great. Yeah, so guys, you could go ahead and share your webcams as well if you want to, because I think right now we're just seeing myself and Alex, if I'm not mistaken. All right, but yeah. So, oh, you see everybody? Okay,
great. Everybody, yeah, good to go.
Awesome. All right, so yeah, Dale, Akaash, your floor is yours. Go ahead and open up. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got started, and maybe lead up to, I guess, how you ended up where you are. And we look at maybe some advice to the general audience after. So I don't know, Dale, you want to go first?
Oh, man, so I have a little more years on me than I look, right? So I started off in the 90s actually, and actually, if you go even a little bit further back, I had a little intro to programming on the TRS-80. So you had to plug this into the TV and you
Mm.
type out the program, and if somebody pull out the plug, that was it, because there was no storage on it. Uh, so then you start from scratch again. So that was fascinating for me, and I actually I never owned a computer on my own until like 1997, 98 or something like that. But in between that, I had become a finalist in the Computer Olympiad in Trinidad like 3 times in between that, despite not even owning a computer there.
Mhm.
So then I had branched out, and I was doing a lot of sort of a computer consultancy kind of things. So writing some software to run meet management for sports and inventory control for different places around Trinidad and so on. And then I went to UE, and I had a bit of a reality check there. So where uh, I needed to have a different set of skills. So that was an interesting journey there. We could pick up a bit more on that before afterwards, but in between, I tried many, not tried, but I was doing many different things. I was working in photography at the Express and doing something called sub editing there. I was a sound engineer as well, doing many different things. I even taught sailing as well at one point. So, diving and scrubbing the bottom of boats and those kind of things and so on as well.
Mm.
So by the time I got to UE, it was like I'd done so many different things. It was a bit, boring for me to sit and listen to lectures and those kind of things. So that's up to sort of a university kind of a thing, and I was still in Trinidad at that point. We could get into the after university things, you know. I'll let Akash do a quick intro as well. I don't want to hog too much of the time, like I said.
Oh, that was good. So I got my first intro. So my story is a little bit different, but my journey into IT, into Google, I guess, is started when I was in secondary school. So I went to Prez Chaguanas, and I didn't have a computer until I got there. Well, yeah, it was when I just started Prez. Um, Before that, my uncle had I forgot the name of the computer he had. It was an x86, the one where you press the turbo button and you get the extra cycles and all that. And I used to just go and play around with it, but I never had any kind of formal experience. And then, yeah, when I started Prez, my mom had saved up, and at that time, memory bank computers was the ones that was bringing IBM systems down. And she got me an IBM Activa, and that's what I started using to play around. Like that was my beginning part of IT and figuring out how to like do different things, right? And I had a friend, I had some really close friends in in Prez, and one of them was a much more advanced computer whiz than I was. And one time he said, I can't remember, it was some game that had just come out, and he said, "Yeah, man, here, look this floppy disk with the game. You just go run it, and it will unzip and it will play for you." I was like, "Wow, thanks, man. That was real nice of you." And I mean, as you can guess, how the story goes, right? That was a virus that he wrote and took down my system. And while he was laughing his tail off on the other end of the phone, I was there scrambling, thinking, "Oh God, what did I just do? How I lose all of this?" And after he gave me the passwords and all that to recover, um, I started becoming curious. Well, how did he do that? How did he how did he get into that? And that kind of led me to take computer. I forgot what we call it, computer science or computer whatever we had called it, the course in Prez. I take that as an elective, and that's how I kind of jump started my career into IT. And at that time, um, the main internet search engine I think was um, uh, Alta Vista, I think was the name of it. And that when I was doing research for my SBA project, I had to use Alta Vista to start searching. And then my lecturer, he's like, check this new site out. This search engine just launched, Google.com, and that's how I instantly fell in love with Google. So I've been a fanboy of Google since that time until now.
So as we're talking about fanboys of Google and so on, I think I mentioned to you folks, I never had a Gmail account until I started working at Google. I never used the search engine. I didn't know anything about even the cloud products. I knew nothing about the company. I had, so I was complete blank slate. I was there with my Hotmail address, like we discussed. I was running my own mail servers. My search engine was everything but Google. Even up to now, I still use other search engines as well. So you see me here with my iPhone and my Mac, and I still have my Pixel book and my Pixel phone and so on as well. So for me, I just get the point of view that you just need to be agnostic. I don't like to sort of wage these kind of holy OS wars and so on. But if we were to put one OS on the table, and I would say that's my OS, I would say FreeBSD. So so this is why Mac is near and dear to me, because at the core there you have FreeBSD going on there. But that's interesting that we have such the different parts, Akaash.
Yeah, man, for sure. I
But
mean,
okay.
oddly enough, like I am a Microsoft. My background is Microsoft too, right? Because when you're in IT, because when I straight from school, I went to I did my OJT training from TTIT. I did that in TSTT and TN Tech, and then eventually I landed in Angostura, and then I ran IT there in Angostura for about 8 years before I decided to move to the States. And I mean, in Trinidad at that point in time, right, like the majority of IT systems run on Windows. So my career started off in Windows, and I've been a Windows engineer since. So, it's funny that Dale's choice is FreeBSD and mine is leaning to like Microsoft. Like even now, I'm a Microsoft. I stay up to date with like Windows Server and like all the different Microsoft products, because that's just how I grew up.
I think we're all fanboys of Kali Linux and well Linux in general, but yeah, just because of what we do, we appreciate Kali Linux. It's pretty interesting to hear you say that you're leaning towards Microsoft in particular. I don't know if we're fans of Microsoft. I would say we may need Microsoft. Microsoft actually gets us a lot of money in terms of pen testing and vulnerability assessments. Thankfully, thank you Microsoft. If anyone is looking, but do you all think that software and well programming in particular was instrumental in getting you all where you all are today, or is that you don't think so?
I would. Oh, you want to go ahead, Bill?
No, go ahead.
I don't think programming per se. I think the skills programming teaches you, which is the critical thinking and which is the algorithmic thinking, that was instrumental in getting me not into Google, but propelling my IT career. I mean, the problem solving of programming, I think, is helpful. Not necessarily learning to, like, I mean, I started off in learning Pascal. Now Pascal is nobody uses it all from training, right? But same concepts apply to Java, same concepts apply to Python, same concepts apply to Go. Like it's the concepts are the same, the implementation is different. And it's that process of trying to figure out how to solve a problem is what you can translate universally, not just in IT, but in life, right? It's just that way of thinking, I think, was a critical path to progressing.
Okay.
So what's interesting is that I remember in UE a very distinct conversation with one of my close friends, Kerry, at the bar in the back of UE there. Very good conversations happen in this around the round tables there, right? And it was about this very same thing. Which path should we go? Because at that point, I had already done this programming thing at a very young age, starting, like at 15, 16 years old, and already been through the ringer doing an application supporting 3,000, 4,000 people and so on. And then moving off into that and getting a bit more into, I guess you would call it sysadmin, system engineering kind of a thing. So that's what our discussion was. And I think largely we took two different paths. So I went down the sort of a systems engineering path kind of a thing. So I was no longer doing programming, and then I went off into doing all of the things like Microsoft certification, Active Directory, CCIE, CISSP, all those kind of things. I got those things, put them under the belt, expired, and forget about those as well. So then I started working at a particular company. We could get into a bit more history later on. And this company traditionally is a slow mover in adopting technology, although they were responsible for a lot of the technology that we have today. And this is one of Akaash's main customers today. So this company, while in there, I realized suddenly that technology had gone past and I was personally behind technology like by 5 years. So when I started to look on the outside, and I realized that my whole systems engineering job had been replaced by code. So it had gone full circle now. So you're now doing provisioning with Puppet and Chef and those kind of things. You're doing sort of infra as code. And now we do security as code and policy as code in cloud. So now the programming is going full circle. It's not programming like you sit down and you figure out how to make an Airbus fly or something like that, but it's still, you need to do that that programmatic analysis of how to deploy infrastructure and deploy security and make it sort of scalable and those kind of things as well. So it's a skill that it's arguable whether, I mean, I started trying to get to teach my kids Python, and I, not because I want them to learn a language, but that I wanted them to learn how to problem solve.
Right.
And the language is a way of expressing algorithmically how you solve a particular problem. So as Akaash was saying there.
Yeah, I agree, because the critical thinking aspect, I think in any job at any point in time, that critical thinking and the ability to troubleshoot, I mean, those are instrumental. You mentioned a 5-letter cert there that we translate into 4 letters, and which was visibly seen on Joel's face when you said CISSP. I'm just wondering if y'all still have or find like value in some of these certs. I'm not sure if y'all are into actual cybersecurity or anything, but y'all think that the cert part adds to sort of that question of where you want to be in 5 years, right? You think that if people decide to do certs like CISSP and these, which would not necessarily be on the technical side, but you'll think they would add value, that is something that regular people should look at also?
So I have my CISSP. I've maintained it only because of title. I think there is value in this suit, but there's not technical value. There's value if you are wanting to get into a leadership role. If you are wanting to take on a more directive role, then yes, I think there's absolute value. From a technical perspective, not really. Like, I mean, the concepts that it teaches you is not anything new. Like, it's just it's a collection of things that are known in the industry, and it's a way of formalizing your knowledge of, or not formalizing, but advocating that you know these different concepts. Whether it's valuable or not, I think it comes down to the organization, because there's like we work with a lot of customers. Some of them are mature in their security offering or security posture. Some of them are not. But they are progressing, right? And like you see the very seasoned enterprises who have very robust security teams. When you look at the employees there, you don't really see many CISSPs. You might see a CISO having CISSP or something like that, but you typically don't see that. You see some of the other more practical suits that they would have. On the other side, when you have like startups and people wearing multiple hats and like the smaller organizations, sometimes you see it more often than not. Sometimes you don't. Like I think it's I don't want to say it's past its prime, but there are other more tactical suits out there that provide a much more specific acknowledgement of a skill set than CISSP. I still think there's value in the industry, but again, it depends on the what you're trying to get to and the company that you're applying to and the region you're applying to. So I think yes, there's value, but take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
So for me, I sat down the other day and for particular reasons I needed to compile everything together, and I looked and I was like 40 something, 50 something different certifications and different things across the board. And at that point, when I was doing that sort of a check, none of them were valid. So I was at the point where I was meant every month I was renewing something from VMware, something from Cisco, something, and I kind of got tired of it. Personal life and those kind of things got in the way, and I just kind of put everything. And then because we had a requirement at the job, I needed to do a couple more certifications. So then I sat down and I started thinking, how am I going to get back into this certification thing? I'm not sure if my knowledge meets although you work with it and so on, writing an exam is a different thing. So, after that was cleared, I sat down and realized, okay, yes, it's a good rain check to see if you've covered the different topics. Now, if you can actually apply them, that's a whole other story. And of course, as Akaash implied, he didn't use the word, but it depends on the culture of the organization that you're going in, or maybe even the culture where you live. So in some cultures, it's something to have, like the Boy Scouts, you have all the badges coming down your shoulder, and you show that. And for me, most of the times when I go, I let my experience talk for myself, but then I have everything in the background that I need. But it's very rare that I'm actually asked for someone to show me this certification kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I've noticed that a lot of ads for jobs, especially in Trinidad, they get ridiculous. Yeah, look at Joel's face. They get really ridiculous. They ask for every letter under the sun, and then they might put something stupid like CISSP is an asset. And I have no idea how something like CISSP can be an asset, because we've all tried to even just look through that CISSP book, and it's great for insomniacs because it puts us to sleep almost instantly, because we're all tech guys. So to look at this managerial survey, I mean, I did one called the certified chief information security officer, and I probably lost like 5 years of my life just during that exam. It was not fun. I don't think I intend to do it, but especially there are a lot of people in the audience too that they do pursue a lot of certifications, and I think you're right there, because it looks good on paper and it might land you a job, I guess, but to actually have someone question you about this stuff and say, okay, well, prove that you can do XYZ as a CISSP or as a CISO or whatever. That's why I was sort of asking about the value, because
So again, as Akaash also implied, it depends on which certification it is.
Yeah.
So I sat down with a very close friend of mine, and he was doing I think it's called OSEP and OSWE and a CRTO. And when I saw what he had to do in these certifications, I said, there's absolutely no way you could go through. Sorry, just so that the folks listening know what I'm talking about. It's offensive security web expert and offensive security experience penetration tester, I think. So these are considered like creme de la creme from where I sit. in terms of offensive security. Well, I think the company itself is called Offensive Security, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. So when I saw what he had to do and the time crunch, once the clock starts, you had, I think in one instance it was 72 hours to complete the task. So it was similar to when I did the CCIE, and basically when the clock starts, they hand you this thing, and then you have to have all the objectives inside with this manual completed as well. So I was like, there's no way you could come through a certification process like that and just be paper based. I
Yeah.
could highly imagine someone picking up something like even one of the Microsoft certs or Oracle certs or something like that and being paper based, but not one of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think OSCP for the Offensive Security Certified Professional, I think that exam, I think Alex tried it, and that was either 3 days or 5 days. There's one that we're all looking at, which is the practical network pen testing. So that, as well as where you have to do a pen test in 5 days or something like that. So I mean, yeah, those show a lot of value. Joel, do you want to ask a question? I'm seeing a lot of facial expressions.
It's one of the things, and Dale and Akaash hit it pretty good on the head there, right? So there are several points and approaches that which those of us who are seasoned in the industry can recognize and see the values in some of these certifications and how it translates into the environment that you're going to apply it in. So a lot of the organizations that exist within the Caribbean region and within the CARICOM space typically tend to ask for the whole alphabet when it comes to certs, right? I've seen job postings that are just downright outrageous, right? Which some of them are even offensive because they ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars in certifications. And then you apply to these positions thinking, okay, well, I mean, this company is going to respect the effort that candidates are going to put in to attaining these kinds of things, right? And then you get to the final interview and they give you an offer letter and it's pennies on the dollar that they give you, right? And then you try to explain, because I've had conversations with HR organizations and with HR companies trying to explain to them that you cannot ask for these kinds of certifications when it takes so much out of an individual to attain these things from a time perspective, one, and from a financial perspective, two. The other point is that how it relates into the application for the company. And Dale, you're 100% right there. A lot of these things don't really translate into you being able to execute in terms of skill, but formulate more of a mindset and an approach to be able to problem solve within the organization. That's your contribution in terms of your role. And really, the idea behind it is that you are going to be a problem solver. The thing is that there are many or multiple ways that you can solve the problem. Your job is to figure out the best way to do that, and that's one of the reasons that we take these certifications. Coming off of that though, while a lot of these certifications are great, there's a whole host of people out there, because I speak to and we interact with a whole number of people here at CFSI, right? And a lot of them might do the training and formal training and even informal training through YouTube and other study materials and stuff like that. And they may not necessarily take the exam. So a lot of people that are out here have the knowledge and the ability to apply the policies and the training behind what they learn, but they just don't have the letters after the name for it. So it goes as a balance between some that do and some that don't, but it again applies back to the geography region that we're in, where we're facing some limitations and constraints from organizations that may not respect the ability for us to have these credentials and the ability for us to sit at the right table and at the right seat at that table to be able to contribute properly to the organization. That was a very long sentence.
Yeah, so if you allow me a little bit for a quick little story there, that you know, at one point when I started to do a couple of the certifications, I started to sort of prioritize this over everything else, you know, because I did not come from a family with any sort of a resources and so on. So when I did these things, it was coming from me, whichever point in time it was there. So I did the sacrifices, you know, I wasn't buying, you know, fancy clothes and all those kind of things and so on. I was doing these things and so on. So I went off and I I managed to get a job at a particular place, and I was performing and I was executing and so on, and they were happy with me. And then I actually had to go to finish an exam at UE. And then the leader of the organization said, "Wait, you don't have a degree?" I was like, "No, I mean, I didn't lie on my resume. I said, I had the experience and I was finishing the degree." So let's say, for argument's sake, my salary at the time, it was 5,000 TT. They reduced my salary by 25%, and they made me pay back the salary retroactively. That was extra. When I asked for training and so on to go to, let's say, I think at the time it was like CCNA training, they said no, they were reserving that for another engineer who would come on a little later on. So they got the training, they stayed for 6 months, and then they left. Meanwhile, I stayed on with them some more. So all of the training, all of the certifications and so on that I did in the past were not really recognized by the company I worked for at the time. So, and it wasn't really paid for by them. I mean, a lot of people are fortunate enough to get these things paid for. So I ended up doing a lot of these things just for my own self. And I think one of the things a lot of people do is that they do certifications hoping to get a job. But then when they go out into the job place, the job is saying, "We want to see what the experience you have that lines up with the certifications." So Akaash and I think I could speak for Akaash and I, we both do interviews fairly regularly, and you could see almost immediately if someone is a paper-based certificate.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, right? So not at Google, but at another company. I don't want to call the names, but at another company I work for, I had to interview somebody one time, and there were two candidates that we were interviewing. To Dale's point, the person who the recruiter had pulled in, I told you, like, I mean, I was blown away by the amount of certifications this person had. Like, very, very, you look at this and academically, you were like, wow, this person is solid. Like, this is the person that's going to get the job. The other person who we interviewed did not have, they had some qualifications, but didn't have like as many as the first person. And I always remember this, the first person, when we interviewed that first person, the person came in, we asked them about, very impressive resume, we're talking through different scenarios. And we just asked a very simple technical question, like, you're coming to work one day, this happens, what would you do? And that person couldn't respond. Like, I mean, and it wasn't like advanced tech, it was like just simple system administration type stuff, like just regular day-to-day things that they would expect in the role. Couldn't answer. So, all right, no problem. I mean, that's something that they could learn. Next person came into interview, we asked same question, completely flawless with the response, because that person had experience doing this and even proposed a new idea of doing how we were doing something before. And ultimately that person got the job. Not as many suits, but could back it up with the experience. And I think if you are in a position where you have to make a decision where I need to get experience or I need to go pursue a certification, I would always tell you, I would always advocate, get the experience. Certifications are absolutely great. They are amazing tools to validate your experience, but nothing could really compare to having that formal experience on your resume saying, I did this or completed this or whatever. And the certification just reinforces that. And that's the tool, right? The certification is a validation of, yes, this person is capable of doing X, Y, and Z, but the experience is saying, I did X, Y, and Z.
So then, Akaash, if you don't have the certification as yet, how would you get the job?
No, yeah, I mean, that is chicken and egg, right? Like you end up in situation. It's like I really, 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 really think one of the greatest things that TTIT did extraordinarily well was partner with all of the companies across the industry to have that OJT program. Right. That's how I got into IT. other than that, like exactly to your point, Dale, I would not have been able to apply because I had no experience, no certifications. Nobody was going to hire me and pay me any kind of decent salary at to sustain a basic lifestyle coming in. And if I do get a job, it'll be like some junior person that, you know, I don't get the opportunity to get the experience anyway. But, you know, like, and I hope that UTT still does that, the OJT branch, but like that's really the way that you can get somebody who's early in career and get them ramped up, right, and get them the experience. And internships are absolutely an amazing tool that you can use.
So I think that personality and having that person-to-person network, we're not talking about Facebook and LinkedIn and so on. We're talking having a person-to-person network also goes a long way. So, for example, one of the guys that helped to move Spotify to the cloud was a very young guy. He must have been like 15 or 14 years old at the time. Super smart fellow and so on. But he was very well known. He had no certifications. He had nothing. People knew what he could do, but he was missing the personable part of it. So he didn't fit in too well. And these are the kind of people that are usually the uber smart people. So it kind of works both ways for you. That so what I'm getting at is that, you know, you have to work a bit on the soft skills as well. So not just the technical skills, the soft skills to sort of compensate for that gap that you might have if you don't have the certification yet, or if you don't have the experience, you know, and really apply solid problem solving skills like we spoke about before. Really get people to understand how you organize your thoughts and how you can align what you know with where the business wants to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's one other thing I was going to say on that. Like, you know, you can be the smartest person in the room. Like, you can be absolutely the brainiac. But if you can't talk, if you can't communicate, if you can't have a conversation with somebody and be respectful and be, you know, have an actual proper conversation, you can't get hired. Like, yeah, you might get hired for short term and somebody may hire you and take a chance, but if you can't carry yourself professionally, that's going to be a very big problem for you in your career and your career progression. So that is absolutely something you have to focus on as well. Just, I mean, you don't have to be a politician, right? Like, you just have to be respectful. You have to be professional. You have to, like, just know how to carry a business conversation and how to relay your points in a way that can be understood by a general audience.
You know, that point on soft skills is actually quite excellent, because we have a lot of students and people that are pursuing cybersecurity certs on the actual webinar today, and that's a question that we always get about what certs and how do we know what certs and so on. But Trinidad is not in its best place at the moment, and it's pretty much, I think there's an actual hiring freeze within the government at the moment, and we have a lot of exploitation going on, because they will pack CCNA, CCNP, MCSA, CEH, CISSP, CCIE even, which I've seen, into one role and say you are now an IT specialist. This is what we're looking for, an IT specialist, and we're going to start you off maybe at 10 or 12,000, which for those of you abroad is maybe like 2,000 US per month, if that much. But what we usually advise persons, and my advice to you all out there, that those of you all are still trying to figure out what to do, look at the job market. I think Alex mentioned this in the Discord chat, but when I say look at the job market, if you look at Glassdoor and Indeed and Simply Hired, even Caribbean Jobs and all of these places, but look at what is trending out there, because there are so many certifications that I think everyone can do. I have a lot behind my name. Some of those certs don't even exist anymore that I've done. But a lot of these certs that I find, if you just actually do a job search, an international job search even, and see, some of them may not even come up, and they are touted as being the best in the world and the best in this, and so many companies are using them. But when you actually look at this, you would actually see what is, you know, maybe a guide as to what you can do if it's the CCNA, the CCNP, the Cisco certs, Microsoft, And then we have all of these cloud certs as well. By chance, are you all gentlemen certified in cloud certification? I know there's Google Cloud, but are you all actually certified in these areas as well?
Yeah, we have to for the job.
I'm also certified in our competitors as well.
That's I'm assuming Azure and AWS and those
Competitors, yes.
all right, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I think Joel and I actually looking into some. I think I might actually try some of the Google Cloud certs just to be a little different out there. Joe is fancy with Microsoft and AWS and what have you. I have been talking a lot, guys. Y'all have anything you want to ask these guys apart from me yapping?
While they're thinking, I just wanna say something. I just wanna go back to something. You mentioned someone before the chat started, Ahmed. So what I'm saying is the job market in Trinidad might be like this.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is you do what Ahmed did. You look bigger picture. You do your thing. You start publishing guides. If you follow Gary Vaynerchuk, he has good ideas on how you just produce content. You get your name out there. This is what I was referring to as a network for yourself. So when you're looking for a job, you're not looking for a job with this certificate first. You're looking for a job with you first. So you're marketing yourself. You're marketing Jonathan or you're marketing Joel. You're not marketing Jonathan, the CISSP holder, right? Because that may be irrelevant to the job as the task as a whole. So you do that. You put out. You could start. The internet is a great leveler. You start putting out content or guides or something like that, where you start building a name for yourself. So let's say somebody just do a search in whatever the popular search engine is that you might want to use for your name, and then it comes up. Or this guy wrote a guide on securing Kubernetes or how to deploy an application across multi-hybrid clouds or something like that. That speaks more than someone who went and did certifications and all this kind of things. Said, oh, this guy, let's invite him to talk. Or where else did he talk at? Or he talked remotely, and everything can be done remotely, right? And even if you do a job for someone remotely, they could pay you remotely as well. So don't I guess, like you said, you have lots of students listening. So I'm saying don't let Trinidad be a bubble. I mean, CARICOM is also open if you want to think about physically going different places and so on. But globally, or at least within the English speaking countries, you have a good foothold. And another thing, we spoke about certs and how you can expand your footprint and those kind of things. I would recommend to people to learn a second language. Go and pick up Spanish. Go and pick up something like that you're passionate about. And then it just opens up even more worlds to you. And once you learn the second spoken language, the third one might come on board. And this is not something that we tell people. Imagine you sitting in Trinidad, you know Spanish and English. You have basically all of North and Central and South America. That's what Brazil, that you could do jobs for.
That's actually some excellent advice. Thank you for that. I did not think about that. We're so accustomed thinking along lines of IT and what we need to know and vendors, and yeah, that's actually an excellent idea. I think Dave was actually learning a lot of Spanish recently.
It's that Dale made a very good point, right? Like that's one of my biggest regrets of not like when I was in Pres, we had Spanish as a language, and I never really paid attention to it. It was just more of a pain to me than anything else to do. And I regret not learning Spanish in a proper way now because it's such a utility, not just for Trinidad, but just to have another tool to be able to carry on a conversation with somebody in Spanish. And it's good to have that on your belt. If nothing else, it will serve you well.
Okay, great. Another question: Are you all or were into cybersecurity or anything like that?
A little bit when I was at Angostura, I did a little bit. Again, because I had no formal training, so this was like whatever I could find online. when I went to school in New York, though, I did a master's in computer information and network security. So my master's was based on security itself. And I wanted to get a job in security, and I ended up getting a sysadmin job. So
Yeah.
I've always used security as I've always been passionate about trying to learn security and trying to keep up with it. But life, happens. Now, though, in my current role at Google, in the team that I'm working on, I am one of the leads for having security discussions with customers, because I'm also certified with Google's security engineer certification. So now I have those conversations with customers and talk to them about different offerings in Google and how the tooling we have can help secure the environment.
And for myself, I like to say that I'm an expert in infrastructure, and I sometimes wear a security hat, but I've never formally carried a security title. But I've been in lockstep. I can do the penetration testing, I can do the audits, I can do the evaluations and so on. But it's not something I lead with. I lead with my infrastructure hat.
You just staying on cybersecurity for a second, seeing that you know about pen testing and stuff. Is there like any particular operating system of choice that you use, like Kali or just Ubuntu or Linux or something? Any preference?
No, you give us a blank keyboard and let's see how far we go.
Awesome. Okay, that's great.
We had that challenge one afternoon after a couple of beers here, and to sit down at a blank keyboard with nothing prepared and see how far you can go.
Okay.
And it was quite surprising. I have very scary friends. Let's just put it that way. These are people who can basically sit down and read a PCAP in hex. And one of them actually writes the content for offensive security labs as well. So yeah, don't want to mess with these guys. So.
I didn't even know that Google had a security engineering cert. I think that's probably something we have to look into. That's pretty awesome, actually.
It's Google Cloud specifically, right? So
yeah, I think most of the cloud providers have some type of security specialization certification. I just know about ours, and it's a pretty good course if you are considering it.
Question.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll head there.
Do you guys have customers in the Caribbean or CARICOM region that uses Google Cloud extensively? Because
we can't really unless we have a use case, which we don't, to my knowledge. We can't discuss that.
Yeah, we just say we have customers globally.
Yeah.
Do you all happen to know about our Project Zero group?
I've heard about it.
Okay, just checking.
Well, if you want to go ahead and talk about it a bit, that's fine. If you can.
I mean, Project Zero is the kind of like our sort of a elite team of security researchers who look into zero-day vulnerabilities with hardware and software and those kind of things and so on. And they publish a couple of papers in the past, which I'll leave as a homework for you folks to have a look at. That could be a whole other discussion with how these affected the whole planet actually.
It's interesting content. That's all I have to say on that one.
Very, yeah. It's impressively interesting, I should say.
I mean that could probably take a nice portion of a discussion. Yeah.
I know you mentioned we encouraged lots of them in the audience to look outside and look at opportunities outside. But is there anything that both of you all would recommend that either in the infrastructure, networking, or cybersecurity field that I guess could be some advice on what they should pursue or focus on at this point in time, as y'all would be in tech, developing tech and so on, like maybe things that we should look at, or not necessarily certifications, but experience in a particular field that could probably help in getting them out there.
Akaash, you go first.
I think that depends on, I mean, IT is such a broad field, right? Like cloud is the new hot buzzword, right? Like, and even in cloud, you have different variations of cloud. I would say, like Dale, my background is primarily infrastructure. And if I were just starting out in infrastructure or wanting to begin a career in infrastructure, I would definitely take a look at, kind of going back full circle to what they'll talk about, like as code, like tools like Terraform, understanding how infrastructure is deployed nowadays in the cloud. And training is free, right? Terraform, HashiCorp has the documentation online. You could go do the training for free and all of that. I mean, you have to pay for the certification, but getting familiar with that. And then every one of the cloud providers has a free tier that you can play with. For, Google has one. I think the free tier is, you have $300 you could spend. Those are things that you would want, that I would say, that's where companies are going, especially if you have the mindset of, okay, I'm not going to stay in the bubble of Trinidad only, because many companies are exploring cloud, all the different providers. But when you look at Trinidad compared to other regions, not only Trinidad, sorry, the Caribbean region compared to other regions, the adoption of cloud is a bit slow because of various reasons. But if you are looking at the digital nomad life, right, which is what Dale was alluding to, where you can now go and work for people all over the world from your home, and get paid to do work, wherever. That's where I would start. I would start looking at the as a code type solutions that, with tons of free stuff out there, YouTube videos, official documentation on the provider's site, and get familiar with how those things work. Because more often than not, when you see on the different job boards where they're looking for contracts, and by contracts I mean people putting out postings for, I need help standing up or building an automation solution to deploy my infrastructure. More often than not, when you start reading the different requests that they're looking for, it's going to be they're not looking for people to hire on to their company and pay them a salary. They're looking to pay you as a lump sum of money to build something for them that they can reuse on their own, and then you kind of drop in, do what you have to do, build it out, provide that deliverable, and then you drop yourself out, and you get paid a certain amount, but they keep the asset, or they keep the tool or whatever you built. And by tool, I don't mean like an actual tool. I mean like the Terraform code or whatever the case is. They keep that for them to reuse and build. So those are the things that I would say start off with, because that's universally acceptable, and that applies to Google, Amazon, AWS, Alibaba. Like most of the cloud providers out there are providers within Terraform or Terraform compatible. So look for the agnostic tools that are applicable across all different clouds, but focus on cloud, because that's where the industry is going and that's where the opportunities are going to be. Both in security, in infrastructure, networking, there's a major shift, and try to get ahead of that as much as you can.
So now you know why I let Akaash go first, because I suggest whatever he said. He's on this side of me. But I want to augment what he said, what Akaash said with two things. The first thing is, and it's going to be a bit broader than the question you asked. The first thing is, data is everything, and I'll expand on that in a second. The second thing is, don't walk around being a solution looking for a problem. We have enough problems surrounding us. So if we were to fuse the two things together and you look around you, what problems exist around you and what data can you gather about this problem that would lead it to a solution? Forget about the technology, the certification, all those kind of things. You have a lot of potholes in Trinidad. You have a lot of leaks from WASA. You have a lot of crime. You have issues with services from the government and those kind of things. What data do you need from these entities now to arrive at a solution? And I would challenge everyone. You take a notebook, physical notebook. Don't use a computer. Use a pen. Go old school. That link between a pen and the paper, it does wonders for your brain.
Yeah.
And work out that problem. So one of the things that I saw when I was on vacation in Trinidad quite recently was that Trinidad could benefit very greatly from having strong digital identities. And I don't mean digital identities in the form of a private institution doing it, that the government rolls out a digital identity for every individual, every company that's doing business in there, and they make it mandatory for you to have those digital identities. Some people think about a digital identity as a username and password. Us in infrastructure and with a little bit more security knowledge would look at this as a personal PKI certificate going forward. So if everyone has a PKI certificate and they're using this to log on to the government services, then when you're doing things like bank transactions, you're doing things like registering your car, you're doing things like even medical thing to the doctor. So what comes with solving this as a result? You have online vaccination and health cards. You can reduce fraud with vehicle registrations. You can reduce money laundering, those kind of things. So if you sit down and it's a big problem I simplified it a lot there. But if you walk around and you think, okay, I look around, what sort of bothers me? How can I solve it with data? And then you build the systems around it. And then you don't build it and then secure it, but you build secure systems around it. So yeah.
That's some pretty interesting points there too, because the thing is, in Trinidad we have some amazingly brilliant people in Trinidad. I speak to a lot of them on a regular basis, a lot of up and coming ones, the younger ones, and they're all very curious about these things. But I think it also goes back to the fact that when we look at this this three-coat system that we have, where you need to tender for something, and then pretty much when you look at it, every service that's offered by the government, if there was a tendering process for it, it's usually the cheapest, which is not necessarily the best that you have out there. But that's some first world logic that we have there. Thank you very much for that. I hope it reaches someone inside of here. Johnny, Dale, anything that you all want to ask too? Because I just keep talking here, anything?
Yeah, actually I have one for both of you
Yeah.
guys. I know you guys that you all do interviews on a regular basis. Is there something that's for the students here? Is there something besides the certifications during our interview? Let's just say that you go past all those things. And again, we'll be talking, Google specific. Is there anything that jumps out to you guys and say, this guy, this guy or girl looks like, it could be a good fit for Google?
I'd say in all of the interviews that I have done, so the way that, and I can't really talk about the science behind how we do recruiting, right? But when our recruiters review these, so we get at about, I think the last number is we get about like 1,000 applications a day, or maybe more. And our recruiting team does an amazing job filtering that down. And what they look for really is, and it goes back to what I said about experience, right? Like if you look at any of our job postings, we have very specific criteria we call out for different jobs. And resumes that align to those criteria are the ones that will get floated up. The ones that don't just don't get selected. And a lot of times what you may find, or what you may end up seeing is somebody got referred in by an employee, which is a big thing here, right? Like, I mean, we very much encourage our Googlers to go, and if you know somebody who you think is a good fit and who meets the criteria, go refer them in, because we want good people coming into the company, or people that we know are trusted. And a lot of times you would sometimes see people who got referred in, and you look at their resume and you notice, okay, well, they don't have all the exact criteria that was listed out and whatnot. And that's not because they don't have the experience, it's just they didn't properly explain, they didn't properly list out in their resume. That they did this task, or they, you know, it was not aligned to the job description. Even though they had the experience, it just was not translated well. And that goes back to the soft skills conversation. Focus on, I'd say, the thing that will serve you, I think, the best in the short term, especially for those who are early in career, is make sure you have invested a lot of good time in your resume. Like, make sure there's no grammatical errors. Make sure you have your bullet points are very condensed and very specific to the point. Make sure you have the same tense. Like, don't say in one point perform system administration, and then in the next bullet you have I started Exchange Server. Like, don't mix the tenses. Like, have continuity within your resume and have it professional, because that's going to be a face, right? Like, when you start applying to jobs, before they even decide to call you, they're going to look at your resume, and if you don't have proper, if that resume is not doing a good job representing you from the beginning, you're just not going to, like, you more often than not, you're going to get rejected right away. Same is true for well, I shouldn't say for Google, but like in any industry. But to kind of go back to the original question, I think the number one thing is, whatever experience you have, do a good job of translating that into your resume. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be a doctorate, you don't have to have a doctorate in everything and, you know, put like a whole bunch of experience. Like, whatever you have, just make sure that you have it documented and translated in a very clean, professional way, and that will be what serves you better.
So if I were to double up on what Akaash said there, if we go back to what I said about data is everything, and I pulled up somebody's LinkedIn here, and they indicated that they were a director and cybersecurity instructor, and they were a purple team leader, and they did penetration testing and those kind of things. Straight away, if I saw that on a resume, I would say, hey, this tells me nothing. So this tells me what you were, it tells me the task that you had the responsibility for. It tells me nothing about what you achieved. So we like to think about each point on your CV. We call it an XYZ resume. We took X, we did Y with it, and we achieved Z results. And Z has to be measurable. That's the data of it. So that's one thing. So it might not be very easy for someone with very little experience to come up with an XYZ resume, but certainly for folks who have a bit more experience, who are applying for, you know, mid-level jobs and so on. One of the other things that we like to do is, when we sit down and we're interviewing folks, and these are public things, you can find it on YouTube and so on, is that we would like to know that you use data to support your decisions. So if I say, hey, Dale, I have money and I want to open a hamburger stall somewhere in Trinidad, where I should put this hamburger stall? It's not a trick question like you see in Silicon Valley with how many tennis balls go inside of an airplane or those kind of things and so on. Straight off the bat, Dale, tell me where I should put this hamburger cart.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would look at is location and the amount of traffic to the area, people-wise.
So that's a good start, right? So we want to know how you gather the data for traffic, how valid is the data, those kind of things, and so on, and how is this going to eventually contribute? That's just one example, right? And that's going on what Jonathan asked there, and building on what Akaash answered there as well.
Yeah, and one other thing too, I know one of the things we talk about in the beginning is like if you don't have a certification and you don't have how are you going to get a job, right? Volunteer. So think about this: you have a temple, or you have a church, or you have a mosque, and they have, they need to pop a website. Now with everybody doing everything online, or they have some type of online presence or something, volunteer. Then you can put that in your resume as volunteer experience. So you may not have formal professional level experience, but it shows one thing. It shows two things. One, you're not just sitting down, twiddling your thumbs, applying, and not, like you're going out there and you're finding opportunity. Even though you're not getting paid for it, you're paying it forward, right? Like you putting in the work now, you're volunteering at all these different places. You're trying to find opportunities, and you're noting them down on your resume as work that you did, so that when you do go to apply for a formal position, you're not going in with a blank resume, or you're not going in to just hand me with a hand me, putting your hand out to hand me a job. You can say, I don't have formal experience, but here's what I did. Here's a problem that I found, and here's how I solved it, and here's how I measured it. And you get into that mindset from young, and from as early as you can, to Dale's point, the XYZ, right? Find something, find a problem, whatever it is. It don't have to be, grand. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to change the whole trend out, right? Like, there are problems existing everywhere around you. Simple things like your neighborhood. You want to, there's something like you just find whatever creative problems, whatever issues you have near to you, and think of how you would solve that. And if you can use technology to solve it, great. Go ahead and try it. And if you are successful in it, go ahead and note that down in a resume. And those are all things that can help build your profile. Now, as you get more mature and you get jobs and different things, and you start building that experience, those things will naturally phase out, because you wouldn't want to talk about those. You talk about those volunteer opportunities less, and more of your professional experience. But to get you in the door of professional experience, definitely look at volunteer opportunities. Look at different organizations just needing help. Look at your neighbors. Just find creative ways to solve things.
So I know that the group here is focused around cybersecurity and security in general and so on. So, of course, there's many different skills, and we spoke about the certification and those kind of things. So this is where, even though you don't do the certification, you can use it as a sort of a rubric, as a sort of a guide to different areas you can go to learn. So you don't need to do the certification, you can go and you can learn. So one of the things that I see that is fairly easy to pick up, but not very popular because it's very tedious, is auditing. And auditing is one of those things that, basically each business needs to do, especially if you go into the industrial areas of fintechs and finance and so on around the country in different places. And this is something, if you like to travel and so on, and if you like to read long reports and write long reports and so on, that could be appealing to some people as well, right? So it's not just about sitting down and trying to compromise a system as well, right? So this is where, when you look at a rubric, let's say like from AWS for their security engineer, or GCP for their security engineer, or the CISSP domains, you can see which one appeals to you, which one you feel naturally gravitating to, and then you just follow your gut, and the money will come.
True, very true.
One thing I want to add to what both Dale and Akaash was saying, I think I always tell people this, is that how I have learned a lot of the stuff that I did was same problem solving aspect, but more in terms of trying to come up with a project that you would like to do. Like for me to, when I wanted to learn to do web development, I was like, okay, well, I need to learn HTML. What can I do to learn HTML? And went out and learned to build websites in HTML. And then I realized, wait, there's something called server-side scripting, and I got into PHP that way. And that's how I built my knowledge on things like database.
What website you built, Alex?
So it was a project management style database for students in a school. So like you get to choose your subject, your project that you want to do, and then like a moderator or something could be like, all right, well, there's already 10 students doing this project, consider doing these others instead. So that was a project that I to learn to do it.
So when I was on that same part, learning PHP and all those kind of things, made a joke with a friend of mine, Donnie, and we built barrahunter.com to locate doubles vendors anywhere, and you could basically configure your doubles and so on.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, go ahead.
That is something we need now, though.
That is something we need.
The nearest cheapest doubles platform.
You know what you need? Doubles delivery is what you need.
We need complete knockdown doubles. If you can get everything knocked down, neatly packaged in a box, and you can assemble yourself, you're good to go.
Mhm.
Then
Or
that
just
was
knock doubles if you want to. But yeah, so
See that-
that's how I learned to do those things. Just formulate a project plan and learn to do it. And and you would realize, you go down this rabbit hole realizing everything that needs to feed into this to build this.
And the thing is, like, when you look at it now, YouTube is an amazing platform for that. There's nothing you can't learn on YouTube. I can't, like, when I was growing up, right, my dad, he never really wanted me to kind of help out do things around the house because he was afraid I would end up like electrocuting myself or something, because I wasn't exactly, careful in what I was doing. And now I had to change a light switch a couple of years ago. Why do? Pull up YouTube. How do you change a light switch? And then that grew into, okay, how I can do now. Wi-Fi switches had just come out. Okay, how you install a Wi-Fi switch? And like, just you learn, like, and it doesn't have to be tech, right? There's anything in your day-to-day life. And in tech, there's an enormous amount of content out there, from full-blown courses all the way down to like just specific tasks. There was a course that I was just curious. I saw on YouTube one day being advertised on C++, and I didn't do C++ since university back in the day. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go through this and see what like, on YouTube, you don't expect the quality to be, as a free service thing, you don't expect it to be like mind blowing. And this thing was like, it was almost like my lecturer teaching me. Like the person who did it did an amazing job talking about the structure, and like very, very well done. And I was completely mind blown. So there's anything you want to learn, there are resources out there to teach you, from cybersecurity, from regular programming, from regular system administration. You can find information out there to teach yourself.
Yeah, I kind of get upset with kids now, because back in my day when I was in high school, I went to Hillview and we didn't have the internet yet, and everybody, 60-something people, had to share the same World Book encyclopedia to write a different report from each person. And then now, in the time of Google and YouTube, you pretty much have every single thing at your fingertips. And what I try to tell a lot of people is that I did not have a lot of money growing up. I had to do everything on my own. I probably took 2 classes that were paid for, which was like A+ and Network Plus. Every single thing in Cisco, Microsoft, cybersecurity, EC Council, every single thing I had to do self-study and read a ridiculous amount of books and practice everything on my own. But literally, yes, everything is out there at your fingertips. You just have to have the time and the dedication. As they always say, and sometimes you just find something that you gravitate towards, because IT, cybersecurity, networking, programming, it's so vast out there. And when you really look at it as what these guys have been saying about, you could look for a simple problem, you could volunteer a simple problem. Like even with CyberFence, when we created this, even though it was started as a memory towards my dad, as he used to help a lot of people and stuff, but we do a lot of workshops for free and help people for free. It may not be the best content, but we try to do our best, and there are a lot of people doing these things out there. I know people that still write blogs and little articles. I mean, LinkedIn is a very powerful platform, because I have a lot of students with no certifications, but their soft skills are incredible. And they sometimes just take that chance and reach out to someone on LinkedIn, whether it be a hiring manager or someone that works at a company, and they say, hey, I'm interested in so and so, not too sure about myself, but I'm a quick study, fast learner. Do you think that there's some advice you could give me into maybe if I want to apply for a later date for a job? And I think that soft skill, but that drive there as well, we can't just be here telling you all, well, do this certification and do that certification. Yes, I can advise you on maybe what certification that you all can do, but again, it depends on your financial status as well, because while it would be great if everyone could afford to do CISSP, this is a third world country, and that exam is probably, I think, close to 1,000 US, somewhere around there. And the pay that you're going to get for some of these certs, as Joel was mentioning, is not the same, but you have so many free resources from even Try Hack Me. We always recommend Try Hack Me. A lot of what I've seen on LinkedIn in particular with a lot of cybersecurity persons interested is that they post their progress from Try Hack Me, and that actually gets you a lot of notification, because as Dale was also saying, is that this is something that you can quantify in your progress, and I think they even listed as the top 2%, top 5%, top 10%, and so on. So finding that drive, because Alex himself is Mr. DIY, do it yourself. Alex does hydroponics and farming and electronics, and we all have Arduino kits and things that we play around. There's a lot of tinkering. We do a lot of lab building. Joel has actually built ISPs across the Caribbean. Joel is different. He's like the super nerd in the group. But all of us, I mean, we are all into so many different things. Deo is a man of all trades, from barbecuing to building houses and air conditions and pen testing. Johnny's pretty good at scaring people with just his looks, as you can tell. But yeah, guys, just find something. YouTube has everything. We have so many channels out there. Just find something that you might be interested in and just jump at it. Please do not let Trinidad be your fishbowl. There's so much opportunity out of there. I have made so many connections internationally just because I've put myself out on LinkedIn, just because of this tiny little CyberFence YouTube thing that we have. People have reached out. We do free information security awareness training. So maybe find something that you're good at and, offer it a little bit. And as they said, the money actually will come after a while. So you go ahead and be the best version of yourself. Don't look at what I'm doing, what Johnny and they are doing, what Dale and Akaash are doing. Just find your stuff and focus on you. Let yourself be your own competition. That's what I do with me. I don't focus on other companies and schools and people and whatnot. Yes, I admire a lot of them, but yeah, just find that little drive and little motivation. Take away from the stresses of the jobs and the crime and whatever we have going on around us every day. Just try and go back into that little bubble that you created for yourself, or you can create for yourself, and just try and be happy in that space. See where it goes. I guarantee you it will not end badly. It can only end well where you invest in yourself and you take your time and invest in yourself. So maybe instead of clicking on yes, are you still watching and trying that extra episode and stuff, you could try something on Google and see where it goes, where it carries you.
So one of the things, Shiva,
Yeah,
that
sure.
I didn't hear you touch on, to be honest,
Mhm.
going the route of opening your own business or being an entrepreneur is also
Yeah.
an option versus waiting for someone to provide an opportunity for you. You go out and you create that opportunity. You can form a company, get VAT registered if you make that kind of income, and start offering the services. Another tactic would be to go into a larger, more established company, and you say, hey, I would like to start a cybersecurity arm inside of your company, under your arm. Maybe they might say go away from here, or maybe they might put you under somebody else or something like that. But you go and you sort of make a proposal for this. You have the economics for it. This is where the soft skills come in, right? You do a bit about the economics on it, the impact. You do some strategy around why they should do this. It's the same as if you were going to do your own business venture. The beauty of this is that, just as you know, you could be hired as a company in other countries as well. But there's also economic benefits as well, in that you know, you will now be interrupting the flow of when you will be paying the taxes and those kind of things and so on. So you would have a bit more money to spend on resources like training and equipment and those kind of things, as opposed to working for a salary, being taxed on it, and then trying to do that as well. So this is one of the routes that you can look at as well. If you're saying that, okay, I don't see the jobs that I like, let's create the job that you like, and see how it goes from there.
That is
That's
absolutely correct, because that's what I did. I decided to create CFSI, make my own opportunities, start training people. I mean, it took me about 5 or 6 years to get my first pen testing job, because obviously they're not going to hand out a pen testing job to someone that hasn't been there a while. But that's an excellent idea. I actually encourage everyone. You can start your business, because in 5 years from now, whether you do something or don't make it, you will still have a 5-year-old company, and that does stand for something. And in the meantime, you upgrade yourself. I'm not sure if I cut off someone just now, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's still a scary thought nonetheless. Easy, I think it's easier said than done in most people's eyes.
Just take the leap. Just try it, because you don't want to look back and say, okay, well, 5 years ago, I should have done this. I should have started my own company. Take that leap. Take that risk on yourself, because life is a very short and very unpredictable thing. Before you know it, you'll be looking back and saying, okay, well, 20 years has gone, and this is where I am. This is where I wanted to be. This is what I could have, should have, would have, etc., etc. So, guys, yeah, just take the leap. Try it out. You know, your
And
worst, especially Alex's one
be
worst.
about taking the leap right now too, Shiva. Just by having it, if the opportunity arises, you don't have to go out there and say, I need to register a business. You could jump on it, one time,
Yeah.
say, I have a business registered, I work XYZ, and yeah, get the opportunities there.
Exactly, the opportunity meets preparedness kind of scenario. It works. It's been tried and tested.
There's one thing, I'm going to borrow a line that I saw Dale had posted somewhere. I don't know if it was LinkedIn or Facebook or something. Dale had said something, and it resonated with me a lot. And I think it's very applicable here. Anything you do will either be an experience earned or a lesson learned.
Yes, exactly.
And when you look at it like that, right? Like, yeah, you're afraid to take this. Like, I wouldn't know where to begin opening a company, but that doesn't mean that if I was not wanting to pursue a job and couldn't find what I was looking for, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't go do that. Like, I would spend the time try to figure out, or ask. Again, goes back to your network. Ask people who you trust. Ask people who you consider mentors. Ask people who you know. And if you don't have people like that in your life, reach out. Like, one of the things, like, take that leap on LinkedIn, build that confidence, right? Like, and reach out and just say, hey, I just need some advice. I saw your title. I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. Would you mind giving me some guidance? You might get a yes, you might get a no, but just keep going, right? Find somebody to give you that guidance on, like, okay, here's what you need to do. Open up your company and follow this process and whatnot, and then go reach out and start going after your first gig, right? And just keep being determined. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. Just keep trying. And the more you invest in yourself, not just through a business, but in whether you work for a company. Now, the more you invest in yourself, the more it's going to benefit you later down the road.
So society and many different things has made failing a very negative thing.
Yeah.
Failure can actually be a very positive thing, and especially when folks are young. We're talking about 20-something years old, not married, no kids, whatever, those kind of things, or you live in with your parents and those kind of things. You can afford to fail every other week, really. Yes, it's scary to fail. Yes, there's a certain stigma that society attaches to it, but now you know what doesn't work. You're not going to open a business and be profitable in 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years. But when that starts to gain its momentum, you've learned a lot of hard lessons. You have the bruises on your knee. You know how, like Akaash say, you don't know how to open a business, you'll find out how to open a business. You don't know how to open a commercial bank account, or you don't have contacts to do things in the correct way, you'll find out how.
Mhm.
And the only way to find out how sometimes is to take that leap and just do it. And in software development, you try to fail fast,
Yeah.
so that you're failing cheap. So you don't try to build this huge skyscraper, pie in the sky, and so on, and then the whole thing falls down. You build, you test, you build, you test, you build, you test, and you fail fast. You fail fast, and you iterate, and you just keep going. So that could be applied to your career, towards your business venture, those kind of things, and so on as well.
These guys are absolutely right, because what a lot of people don't know out there, and maybe it could be lack of experience, but failure is a very, very powerful tool that will work in your favor. Fear is about perspective, because like Alex just said, he doesn't know, starting your own business is a scary thing. Akaash just said he doesn't know the first thing, but I didn't know the first thing about owning a company. I had a couple ideas for a name, 2 names about it. And I learned everything else going along. And that's, I think, a common misconception that a lot of people have about starting something. You need to know this much, you need to know that much, but you will learn as you go along. It is perfectly fine to be afraid. I was terrified the first time I approached companies and stuff, but it worked out. I got a good repertoire with the VP of Fujitsu, and I know all of the VPs on Fujitsu on a first name basis, for example. And it was just because I decided, hey, let me try and reach out to these people. Let me just try. What if I take that fear, and instead of saying, I don't know anything about owning a business or starting a company, and I could say that same thing, but I don't know anything about opening or starting a business, but I could learn as I go along. So if you have that 9-to-5 job, that's fine, that's perfect, that's great. That means that you have something going for you there. But take that time, register that company, and take a little bit of that extra time, because we have 24 hours in a day. You work for 8, you sleep for 8. What about the others? What are you doing with that other part of your time? Are you doing labs? Are you practicing? Are you reaching out? Are you trying to write an article? If you all actually want to write articles, especially those of you all on cybersecurity, and you want to shoot it to us first so we can review it and help you out, help share it on our LinkedIn and get you all noticed, that's cool, right? Just try, just try. I promise you, it will not end badly. You will, as Dale and Akaash said, you will actually learn from it and get experience from it, grow from it, see if this is something you want to do. But more importantly, you will see that where you need to build yourself at some point. Just sit and be perfectly honest with yourself. All right, why is it I don't know this, so I can't do this? Is it because I don't have the time, or I don't have the knowledge, or is it that I'm just not applying myself to support myself? Because think about it, you will encourage everyone else in your life. You will tell your bosses, give them all of these great ideas about why things will work, why things wouldn't work. But do you do that for yourself? Do you actually sit with yourself and be like, hey, you're a great guy, you're a great girl, etc. And you can do this, you can try this, you can learn this. All right. So I'm not trying to turn this into a motivational speech or anything, but I can do it. We've all done it. Joel is doing it. Jonathan is doing it. Deo, Alex, everybody's actually doing it. Yes, we have CFSI, but we have a lot of other projects. We just make the time and we follow through, and that's it. Just sit and be honest with yourself. Just try. I mean, yeah, okay. If you're lazy is fine. But sit with that pen and paper and start writing down, and you'll be amazed at how far you can reach. I remember when I had CFSI as an idea, and I drew a box, and I said eventually this box is going to be a classroom one day, and it's going to be an office one day. And I still have that picture, actually. I never threw it away. I didn't frame it. I just have it, tucked away neatly. But yeah, just try, guys. Just please try, right? I mean, yes, you might all be thinking, okay, we have all these certifications and so on, but we started somewhere. We had that will that we wanted to be maybe XYZ. Mine has changed a lot over the years, but my goal is still the same. I just know where exactly. I have an idea of where I want to be. I don't know exactly where it might be, because things shift, and the world is an exciting place, right? Don't just limit yourselves, please. Dale, Joel, John, Joel, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, so I have like two things. First one is on the point that Akaash and Dale raised with where your resume is, your basically the first point of entry that anybody's going to see. There are a ton of resume professional writers out there, right? There's even a lot in Trinidad and throughout the Caribbean, or you can use some international ones as well too. And they are fantastic. They transform your resume from the typical default Microsoft Word template that everybody typically uses into this majestic appearance that it looks really professional. I mean, it may come as an expense, but it is worth the investment that you take a look at it. So there are a lot of services out there that you can use from like Fiverr and all of these other social sites and stuff like that. So I highly recommend that you can do that. So if you are in the process of job hunting or looking to move or wherever you're doing, definitely hiring a professional writer for your resume makes a world of a difference, because these guys, a lot of these guys and girls are in HR already, so they already know how to structure and what to look for on something like this. The second thing is what I usually, well, not me per se, but it has affected me in a particular way, and it is a piece of advice that I tend to give to people who maybe want to follow in certain footsteps in the career paths that you may want. One thing I would recommend to people is never underestimate the value of a mentor. For a lot of the positions and the people that are coming up in positions of power and the ability to influence and have power with an organization, even if it's within your own company that you want to own, having a mentor makes a huge difference. You don't necessarily need to only have one. You can have multiple. It depends on which faction or direction you want to be able to go in. And it comes as where you're getting this guidance from somebody who has been in the shoes before you. So they will be able to coach you and guide you in the directions that you will be able to take without having to make those mistakes for yourself. Mistakes are great. They allow you to fail and you learn from them repeatedly, but not having to make those mistakes and understanding the lessons learned from them before they can happen is even better, because you're saving that time and it is being demonstrated to you that if you do this, this will happen. So mentorship is really great. I remember the first time that I was in an organization and saw somebody mention to me that this senior manager or that vice president was actually their mentor. And I was like, wow, I only heard about or read about something like that. I never actually saw it in reality. And this is actually a company that I used to work in from before. I actually heard someone who was at my age level said that they had a mentor that was a VP. I was like, wow, I didn't even think about something like that. And it really does pose a significant advantage to have somebody in that mentorship role to guide and mold you into what kind of person you want to become in terms of a career or your specific field of choice or whatever. So it really does bring the advantages and benefits with it. Yeah.
Sure.
I actually have a question from the audience. I actually just realized we could actually bring these up. That's what Dale was asking in the chat as well, if we have any questions. So this was a while back from Naresh. He was asking which 3 cybersecurity certifications we all recommend. But as we're talking to these guys from Google, let's actually extend it. Are there any certs that you guys would recommend to get into Google and about cybersecurity as a whole? Or we carry a lot more weight at Google then, let's just say.
I think how to answer this question. I would say that now, to be honest, I've been out of the last time I really delved in cybersecurity was when Backtrack was alive. That's how far back. I mean, I haven't used Kali Linux or anything recently, and my most recent foray into cybersecurity is this Google certification. So take my advice very much with a grain of salt, and you probably want to get the advice from more senior folks like the CFSI folks who actually know what they're talking about. But I would say that, kind of going back to what we were talking about with cloud, focus on agnostic certs. So I don't know if ethical hacker is still a respected cert or not. When I was back in my day, that used to be like a go-to cert that everybody would go after. Ethical hacker is agnostic, teaches you a lot of good principles. So I would say definitely go pursue that. I would tell you choose a cloud, or maybe don't choose a cloud. Just pursue the specialization certifications for security for the different cloud providers, because that's never going to not serve you well, because there's always, especially now with more and more companies moving to cloud, not only regionally in CARICOM, but globally, and especially if you're looking to focus outside of Trinidad and do digital nomading. More and more companies are moving to cloud, and they, quite frankly, are dealing with the same challenges that you would expect. They don't know how to do security in the cloud properly. Like cloud is a lot of the general perception is cloud is scary because it's not my data center, it's not my infrastructure. But on the contrary, it's quite secure. It's very secure, and there's a shared fate responsibility, right? So like the cloud provider provides a certain amount of security on the infrastructure, and then you as the customer have to provide security for what you're running on cloud. So there's always going to be opportunity there. And you couple that with something like ethical hacking, and I mean, the only other suit that I know it's a controversial topic with CISSP, but that's the only other one that I really know of, being out of cybersecurity for a while. But I would definitely say two for sure. One is CEH, and then two is one of the cloud specialized security certifications.
So if I were to sort of level up, and this one is going to be a convoluted answer, right? So you're looking at something that would give you an advantage, right? And if we say that we have many people having a particular grouping of certifications, and you want to make yourself stand out, and I were to choose one, I would say do the certified Kubernetes security specialist.
Okay.
Why this one? Because it's based around Kubernetes. It will force you to learn how modern applications are architected. It will force you to learn automation. It will force you to learn security at scale. So when you sit down and you think of one of the problems, when you pick up that remote and you push the red button for Netflix, you put the remote down, or while you're watching it on your notebook, you architect Netflix on a piece of paper. You architect Netflix securely on that piece of paper. And then you figure out what are the skills that you need to deploy the next Netflix, the next Tidal, or anything like that. And you'd find that all roads will lead to microservices, containers, orchestration, those kind of things. So it's not, and I said it's a convoluted answer, and it requires many skills underneath. Of course, you'll have the Linux skills under there. You'll have, the programming skills. You have infrastructure as code. It's a windy pathway to this one. So again, it's called Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist, and also that will have some cloud components inside of there, and many different things as well.
Yeah, that's a good call. I forgot about Kubernetes, and you can run Minikube on your local machine, which is a mini version of a Kubernetes cluster. So you get exposure to many different things there, running locally on your computer. So you don't even have to go to a cloud provider, and you can you can do some practice there. And again, you can get all that content, or a significant amount of that content, for free on YouTube. Just go search, and they talk about different topics to cover, and there's a lot of information out there, and Kubernetes is absolutely a path to explore. It may not be as widely adopted right now in the CARICOM regions, but it is absolutely a technology that is adopted in many other places and many other parts of the world.
Thanks, guys. That's greatly appreciated. The last two things I just want you all to touch on, if you can, is that in your personal experiences, do you deal with imposter syndrome? And to that extent, how do you deal with burnout or avoiding burnout or dealing with burnout?
Yes, imposter syndrome. I still deal with it today. What I found out when I so when I came to Google, I had no cloud experience. I was the company I worked for before was a dedicated infrastructure hosting company. So I dealt with switches and routers, servers, and all things you can touch. And then I got the job at Google, and most I could do, and this is not an exaggeration, I could probably spin up a VM, and that was it. Like, I didn't know anything else. And after I eventually got the job and came in, I came into myself knowing that I don't know cloud. So I was like, okay, I'm psyching myself up, right? Like, I don't know cloud, but I know Microsoft, I know hardware, I know compute network storage, I know those concepts. So I'm confident in what I know, and I'm confident that I could come in and say, this is the value I'm going to add to the company. Fast forward a couple of weeks after my onboarding, all of that out the door, because the things that you thought you knew, there's somebody, more often than not, somebody who knows that more than you, and is probably an expert, or even wrote some code or built that themselves. Like, that's how it felt coming into Google. Like, I just walked in, I was like, I think they really made a mistake hiring me because I don't know what I'm doing. And that scary feeling of not knowing what to do, it forces you to really take a look at yourself, and it forces you to say, okay, calm down. You went through the interview process. It's obvious that you got hired here for a reason. Just find your groove and find where you can add value to the company. In my case, Microsoft workloads was one of the immediate areas that I saw a lot of people on my team needed help in, because while Google's method or Google's way of thinking is, we are obviously, we don't want to have lock-in, and we are multi-cloud, and we want customers to do the right workload where it makes sense for them. There's a heavy Linux background, as you would expect in a company like Google, but there were not many Microsoft experts. I mean, we do have Microsoft experts, but compared to the other folks, like, it was a smaller amount. So there was an immediate need for people who could talk to customers about, like, Active Directory or running their Windows Server and what some best practices are and whatnot. And that's where I found my initial groove. While doing my day job, I was able to liaise with the product team running Microsoft stuff, or in charge of that, and I got plugged into a lot of customer conversations. And that in itself boosted my confidence, because it was like, yeah, I'm learning on the cloud side, and I'm learning technology and non-Microsoft things, but I'm also immediately adding value to the company with these conversations. And that helped me a lot through the imposter syndrome piece.
So Akaash did a good summary of what I would say about imposter syndrome. So you ask about burnout. So the company, we're very lucky, does a lot of things to make us comfortable, and they actively encourage you to turn off. And at some points in time, I actually got like a little pat on my hand for sending emails too often outside of working hours and those kind of things and so on. So we have things like people would have in their email footer, although you may receive this email outside of working hours, I don't expect a response right away, those kind of things. The tools that we use for communication are very good about suppressing notifications after you've defined your working hours. If you're traveling, it tells you that, okay, Akaash is traveling to San Francisco, Akaash is in a different time zone. And then you have things that are being promoted now called user manuals, how to work with me. So when you go to message someone, you'll see that, okay, this person prefers an email versus instant messaging or those kind of things. And and it would come up inside of the messenger, it would come up inside of the mail client that this person is outside of their working hours and those kind of things. So we're very lucky that, I mean, that they're creating the tools, but they're also actively encouraging you to take these moments, and there's lots of employee benefits for things like massage or mental health. Was a very big focus on mental health, especially when people were working from home during COVID, and suddenly you had this feeling of isolation, and you had very easy opportunities to just keep working and not turn off. So I think part of it is a culture that actually helps you to avoid the burnout, because it's easier to avoid the burnout than to solve it. So I'm not sure how other companies do it, but I'm very pleased with how it's approached at the moment here.
So yeah, I guess ultimately it boils down to the culture of the organization, and if they even see the mental health of their employees and their resources as important, which unfortunately is not at the top priority of most companies. But that's pretty refreshing and impressive to hear about. I mean, I've read about Google, offering even sleep pods and all of these things for their employees and things. So that's impressive. Before we wrap up, we have one question here for you all, which is there anything that you would have done sooner? I don't know if that applies to what exactly that applies to, but I guess just in general, is there anything that you all think you would have done?
I could go first, and we touched on it. But absolutely take up fluency in another language. Absolutely. And I don't have regrets in anything in life, but that's the one thing I really wish that I could fix.
Okay.
Any recommended languages?
I mean, look at the region you're in, and I think Spanish is a top contender for you there.
I would say the thing that I wished I would have done earlier was take more risks. By risks, I don't mean like go bungee jumping, right? I mean risks as in like coming out of my comfort zone is the risk I'm talking about. And I wish I would have taken some of my own advice now. Like the things I'm talking about, finding a problem to solve and all that. I wish I would have done that as a teenager. I wish I would have done that early in my career, instead of just trying to find a job, get money, go lime, spend it, get drunk, come back home, rinse and repeat. Like while that is fun, and while it's good to enjoy your life, and it's good to socialize, and good to spend time with friends and family, there has to be a balance. And I wish I understood balance younger in life. I wish I understood that life is not all about just earning a salary to go lime. Life is more about bettering yourself and investing in yourself. That's what I wish I would have paid attention to. And not because people weren't telling me, I just could not hear it, because in my head I knew everything. I was, oh, you can't tell me what to do. I know who could tell me how to live life better than me. But when you really, going back to the point about having a mentor, to Joel's point, right? Like when you think about having a mentor, the point of having a mentor is having somebody who has walked that path before, and who can guide you and help you find that balance.
So Shiva, I want for everyone who's listening on the live to just drop a quick message and tell us where they're logging in from, what country they're from, and any questions they have to drop it in, and then we will be willing to answer it offline as well. And if they could give us a rating from 1 to 10, what they thought about this session. So anybody listening live, huh?
Dale, you're always a 10 in my heart.
Oh boy. You can't get any more of my snacks, Akaash. So
all right, guys on the Discord channel in particular, if you all want to just give us a rating about how you thought this was, Someone give you a 20 out of 10 actually.
Yeah, and what country? We want to know what country people are coming from.
Trinidad. I can actually see that. Oh, there's Abby. Hi, Abby. Abby's from Portland, Oregon, US. She's actually one of my mentees. Karen from Trinidad, 10 out of 10. Everyone from Trinidad is 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Excellent, excellent. We have a couple of people from Curacao. We have about 4 or 5 people from the US. The majority 20 out of 10, 10 out of 10. You have nothing less than 10. 100 out of 100 from Leslie from Trinidad as well. Savvy says 10 out of 10. Thank you, Savvy, but you're very biased.
So
Oh,
we
there-
want some questions as well. For me personally, I try to connect with as many of the folks that I know on LinkedIn, as long as you have a genuine profile and those kind of things. I connect with everybody and open to answering questions. If you want to do tech reviews or you just want some sort of advice or something like that, just bring it on.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely look us up on LinkedIn. I don't think we're shy about connecting, and if there's ever anything we could, any guidance or any assistance we could provide, then we're more than happy to help where we can.
We have a viewer who's in high school right now. He just goes by Shiv. I think that's Shivanan, if I'm not mistaken. He says that you don't hear these types of advice in school, so it's amazing to hear this for the first time. And guys, I really have to thank you all for some of this advice. I actually will be acting on a lot of your advice, and thanks to Dale, I will be reviewing my resume also.
So please, Shiv, I 100% agree with you. When I was in school and I went to the only school that is valid in Trinidad, I went to QRC. We still didn't have this sort of a guidance. I had no clue what careers were or how to get from A to B and so on. So that's why I try to pay it backward or forward. Which direction is it? I try to pay it back and try to give as much opinion as I can and relay my experience as much as I can.
Okay.
Dale, you speak like a true blue blood. I went QRC as well, so.
You don't have any other school in Trinidad, so I'm not sure.
Correct, yes.
Those are some fighting words,
Very right.
Actually, my son is going to start putting young school, so I'm either looking at QRC or Fatima. One of these.
QRC all the way.
That's that's his
I also recommend the University of YouTube, apparently. So. Abby from Oregon wants to know from you guys, how do you recommend practicing soft skills? And she also gives you an 11 out of 10.
So that one is a really easy way. Find a friend, find a family member, find a co-worker, find somebody in your church or mosque or temple or somebody you know, and do a presentation to them on something that you consider or that you are good at. So I know we're out of time, but I'll tell you a really funny story that Dale has heard 100 times and you're probably fed up hearing it already. But I always attribute me getting my job at Google to pepper shrimp, and here's why. When we had, as part of the interview process at that time when I was interviewing, you had to do a technical presentation and you had to present it on architecture and then defend the architecture and whatnot. And that was about 40 minutes. And during that presentation, like you could read the crowd, right? Like you could kind of see when people have questions about your response or the way you handle certain things. And I was starting to pick up on them not like being like I could pick up the hesitancy in them. But thankfully, the second part of the interview is where they told you ahead of time to prepare a second presentation on any topic you choose, anything you want, and then present on that. And I chose naturally pepper shrimp because one, I wanted to highlight Trinidadian cuisine, and two, because I'm a foodie. So I presented this thing on pepper shrimp, and the panel was just completely blown away. And I say that kind of jokingly as well, right? Like because they were, the point of that was to see like when you are an expert at something, how you can bring that point across. And if you use that as a lesson, find somebody you know and somebody you trust, somebody's opinion you trust, and present on them on something that you're passionate about. It doesn't matter what it is. Just find a topic, put together 2, 3, 4 slides on whatever that topic is, and present it. And have them ask you questions on that topic, questions that you may not expect, or questions that they would just typically ask, and then get their feedback. And just keep repeating that to different people, and that's how you build soft skills. And I promise you'll start off from being very shaky and saying and 100 times to being more confident and delivery. And you not say you would never say it, because I still say it now in many of my customer presentations, but there's you still have, that's how you build that soft skill part of it. Or one way, I should say.
Pepper shrimp. I will always remember you from now on every single time. Pepper shrimp. Jason from Canada, one of my very closest and oldest friends, he says that he gives you all a 100 out of 10, and he said the discussion was totally relevant, especially for the industry and the next steps. Yeah, guys, this was invaluable information. Thank you all so very much. This was helpful for us on the panel, so I can imagine out there. I'm actually getting a lot of messages on WhatsApp for people who, I guess, they don't want to message in the group chat, but everyone says that this was excellent, and we hope that you have time to come back and just line with us, chat with us, share your knowledge. It's been awesome.
We literally get paid to talk all day, so we could do this top to bottom, so.
They remind me of Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda. He just missing the beard to like his wisdom words.
So if you guys would have us back, I could only speak for myself, but I'll volunteer Akaash and his pepper shrimp.
Yeah, definitely would love to have you guys here. As if your time permits, that would be awesome, because I have so many sets of thanks and thank yous coming in here from people that you've actually inspired today and motivated today. Thank you so very much from all of us here. We would love to have you all here again. To the audience, you all, thanks so much for showing up. This will be recorded, and I myself actually want to look over this to take some notes in particular. Especially I'm looking to that Kubernetes and stuff there, because I was planning to go for CISSP. I still might, but I have things that I want to do, and I just don't want to do CISSP. So I don't know. I'll leave that to these brainiac guys and so on. But guys, everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, remember, on the Discord channel, you have my email address. You can add me on LinkedIn, my WhatsApp. Please, if you need any advice, if you need any help, please, at any point in time, you all know this, I repeat this for every webinar and workshop, reach out to me at any point in time. I will try to guide you all as best as I can to help you all, to give you some advice. It could get pretty tough out there from time to time. You can reach out to any one of us. It's fine. We're always here to help and guide you all, right? We're glad to have you all as part of the CFSI little family that we have here. All right, so guys, on behalf of everyone at CFSI and CFSI CyberFence, thank you so very much for your time. This was awesome. You all are genuinely rock stars in our eyes. We really appreciate this.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for the opportunity as well.
Thank you for having us here.
All right, guys, anything you all want to add before we leave? Dale, Joel, Johnny?
No.
Everybody okay? Everybody gonna start studying and register businesses? Okay, that's great.
I think I'm going to make some pepper shrimp now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all right, guys, thanks you all so much, and we'll pick up, and I'll see you all around.
See you.
Okay, take care.